If you're just starting out on your service based business, there is a chance you may undercharge because you're just starting out. You're just figuring out, you're just getting your bearings. And so there is a chance you're probably going to undercharge for a job. Here's what to do when that happens. My name is Jalal Wilson, and I started a business about 12 days ago called Fix It Today Columbia. And I undercharged on my second job. And so today, I'm going to kind of tell you the story of how that all went, what I learned from it, and what you can do for yourself if you face this situation in your service based business. Because let's be honest, sometimes we look at things and we just assume that, hey, this looks easy, but things are not always what they seem. So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to tell you a little story about my wonderful service based business. And we're going to present this. Yes. Okay. So the first thing that happens is, well, what happened for me is I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going to start me a business and I'm going to win and nothing's going to stop me because I am the man. In my mind, it went something like that, right? Okay. So I did that. And then the first thing is like you got to think about where you're gonna find your customers. You're looking all around. You're thinking, okay, maybe this person or maybe this person. And then like me, at least, when you first start out, you kind of don't want to ask the people you know because you're like, I don't know if they'll actually support me, and maybe this is not the first time you started something, so you don't know what those people might say. So you're like, nah, I don't want to do that. So you're in this war mode where you're trying to find a customer. At least that's what I went through. Next, somehow, some magical way, you find a customer and you are freaking excited. That's how I was. I was super excited. I'm like, man, I got me a customer. Like, man, I got me a customer. And it was the coolest feeling ever to feel like, hey, I just decided to do something. I committed to it and I got me a customer. For me, that process, my first customer, it took about 48 hours. And within 48 hours, I was on a job doing a bike assembly and it went smooth. I mean, I was in and out in an hour and 10 minutes at most. I was like, man, I could do this every day, all day, baby. And it just felt good to know that I just took an idea that I had in my head, and 48 hours later, somebody had paid me for it. And so I'm riding high after that job. And boom, I get my second customer 2 days later. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh, 2 days later, 2 days after that, it's like, oh, my second customer. Now, I originally priced the job at 250. And the person comes back to me and says, that's too much. And I'm like, maybe I'm being unfair. Okay, I'm gonna lower the job to one. I'm gonna lower my ask to 160. That's what he asked. He was like, nah, this is only worth 160. I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. And you may be wondering, what did the job entail? It entailed putting together a bed frame, a queen size bed frame, another headboard, two 4 drawer dressers, and two bar stools and a bar table. Yes, all of that, right? So I'm like, okay, let's do this. This is what happens. After I am done doing the job, he's like, "Oh man, thanks, bro. You did a great job." And I'm sitting there sweating, literally sweating. And I'm thinking about, what have I just done? I definitely, the whole time, not the whole time, but about halfway through, I started thinking, I severely underpriced this job because it was taking forever to get certain things done. Like the dressers were taking forever. The bed was taking forever. And then the headboard was in 1,000,001 pieces. I thought headboards just come as one piece. This one was in 40. I could be being dramatic. Maybe 30. No, with screws and everything, it probably had 30 pieces. All right. It was crazy. So, anyway, I estimated this job in my head at 2 hours. It took 5 hours. And on top of that, I had brought my two sons, which I told them, hey, for this job, I'm going to pay you guys $15 an hour each. So let's do the math on what I got paid. I did 5 hours. I got paid $200. And I had to pay my boys $150. Wait, yes, $150 total. So I had $50 left over. And with that $50, I paid my tithes and I put 20 into savings. And I had 10 left over. And technically it wasn't even 10 because we skipped dinner because it ended up taking so long that I ended up having to buy them dinner, which we got the 4 for $4 or 4 for whatever it is at Wendy's. So honestly, and I paid for them. So honestly, if we calculated this correctly, I'm probably like minus $7 for a job, a 5 hour job, minus $7. I know what you're thinking. Like, how could you be willing to do a furniture job for $160 for all that furniture? I know, bro, but I said I'm just getting started. And so I didn't know how long it would take me or us to do something like that. But I tell you what, I figured it out that day. And here's why I still won. And you're like, how did you win? I won because I learned what is important is efficiency, not just can I do it. Somebody offered me a job today. I could do it, but I would not be able to do it efficiently. So I passed because I don't want to spend 5, 6 hours at a job that is only going to pay me $150. That doesn't make sense to me. The next thing I learned, I am responsible for pricing work correctly, not the client. It is my responsibility. The client is going to they're not looking out for you to make sure you paid yourself adequately, to make sure you have profit built into your offer. You have to do that. And so since you have to do that, you're the one responsible. I'm the one responsible. I also learned I needed better tools. Part of the reason it took so long and one of the reasons why I couldn't be mad at the client because it wasn't his fault that my tools weren't up to snuff for that project. That was not his fault. That was my fault. And which made me think, okay, I had to lock my car. I got a tool in there. Anyway, so I had to get better tools. And after that job, I went and got better tools. But I wouldn't have known that until I had put myself in that situation, that environment. And it reminds me of something Nipsey Hussle says. Nipsey Hussle said in a song he passed, uh, none of us know who we are until we fail. I didn't know what I couldn't and could not do with the tools that I had and the ability that I had until I put myself in a situation and failed at it and learned. And learned. That is the key. Because he also says, what is a mistake without the lesson? We have to get these lessons. And boy, did I get this lesson this time. And I'm grateful for this lesson because on the second job, I learned something about making sure you price your jobs correctly. I learned that, and I learned it on my second job. So it's not like I have to go on repeating a bunch of jobs. No, I learned the lesson. I'm going to apply it, and I'm not taking any jobs at that price again because that doesn't make sense. So I'm glad I got that out of my system by job number two. Most people don't discover that until they've been charging. I mean, they've been charging beneath their rate because they're afraid to charge what they're worth out of fear of judgment for a very long time. And here's the thing: what I learned in this situation, because in another video I'll talk about how I did get lowballed by a client and how I stood my ground and what happened next. I will talk about that in another video. But this may happen to you. You may, like I said, charge for something and then you realize you undercharge. My suggestion is to go ahead and eat that cost because you did it, not the client. You did it. So therefore, you should eat that cost. But you should also learn exactly what you got wrong so you do not repeat it again on another job. That's I mean, that's all you can really do. Because and just count it as this is a learning experience. I learned my lesson. I'm better for it. I don't have to repeat it. And that's it. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Yes, you're going to get it wrong. You may get it wrong at first, but you will learn. And hopefully, you at least get to keep $5 in your pocket when you do get it wrong, unlike me, you know? But anyway, that's what I learned from pricing a job wrong. So don't trip. If it happens, get it out the way. At least you're getting paid to learn that lesson. But then you got to start having confidence in yourself and feeling like, hey, you have to charge what you're worth. Because if you do not, you'll keep setting yourself up with clients who cannot afford to pay you what you're worth. And it will make it harder to scale later. And so you don't want to fall into that trap. And that is a trap I'm trying to avoid on my journey because I do not want to fall into that trap. All right? Remember, you got this. I believe in you. And remember our goal. You have skills. Now it's time to get paid. Let's get paid. All right? Till next time. And if you didn't watch the last video about why I started my service-based business, check it out. It's on the screen in the corner. Oh, no, that's actually not the last video. The last video is how I made $300 in 1 week. If you did not watch that video, check it out. That's the video in the corner. All right? Until next time, it's Jalal Wilson with Fix It Today, Columbia, and I'm out.